The courtroom was deathly silent, the kind of quiet that presses against your chest and makes it hard to breathe. A young woman stood at the defendant's table, her hands cuffed, her face pale but defiant. Her name was Sarah Kane, and she was accused of impersonating a Navy SEAL, a crime that could land her in prison for years. The prosecutor sneered, holding up a photograph of a trident insignia tattooed on her arm, claiming it was a fake, a mockery of sacred military honor. The judge's gavel hovered, ready to seal her fate. But then, from the back of the room, a gravelly voice cut through the tension like a knife. "That mark's real," the man said, his words heavy with authority. Every head turned. A four-star general stood in the doorway, his uniform gleaming with medals, his eyes locked on Sarah. The room erupted in whispers. Who was this woman, and why was a general defending her? If you're gripped by this story already, hit that subscribe button and join us as we unravel the truth behind Sarah Kane, a tale of courage, secrets, and a truth that shocked the nation. Sarah Kane wasn't always in handcuffs. 6 years earlier, she was just another kid from a small town in Montana, raised on a ranch with wide skies and endless dreams. She was tough, the kind of girl who could rope a calf and fix a tractor before breakfast. But she wasn't born a warrior. That came later. Growing up, Sarah idolized her older brother, Michael, a Navy SEAL who'd sent her letters from deployments in places she couldn't pronounce. His stories of bravery, of brotherhood, of sacrifice, they lit a fire in her. When Michael was killed in action during a classified mission in the Middle East, Sarah's world shattered. She was 19, alone, and drowning in grief. At his funeral, she clutched his trident pin, the one he'd worn with pride, and made a vow: she'd honor his legacy, no matter the cost. Sarah didn't just want to remember Michael, she wanted to become him. She trained relentlessly, running miles through the Montana hills, lifting weights in her dad's old barn, studying military tactics from books she ordered online. She wasn't just strong, she was relentless. By 21, she enlisted in the Navy, passing every test they threw at her. But the SEALs? That was a boys' club, and in 2019, women weren't allowed to try out. Sarah didn't care. She found a loophole, a special operations training program that wasn't officially SEALs but was close enough. She signed up under vague alias Kenya and kept her head down. Her skills were undeniable. She outshot, outran, and outlasted every man in her cohort. Whispers started among the instructors. Who was this kid? They didn't know she was a woman until a physical exam revealed the truth. The Navy sent her packing, but not before one grizzled instructor slipped her a note: "You're one of us, even if they don't see it." Humiliated but unbroken, Sarah returned to Montana. That's when the tattoo happened. On a rainy night in a small parlor, she had the trident inked on her arm, and not as a lie, but as a promise to her brother. She started taking private security jobs, using her training to guard VIPs in dangerous places. Her reputation grew. Clients called her the Ghost because she moved like a shadow, always one step ahead of trouble. But Sarah wasn't chasing glory, she was chasing redemption. Every job, every mission, was a way to prove she was worthy of Michael's legacy. She never claimed to be a SEAL, but she never hid the tattoo either. It was her armor, her truth. Trouble found her in 2024, when she took a job protecting a tech billionaire named Victor Lang in Las Vegas. Lang was a paranoid type, always ranting about NBS rival CEOs, foreign spies, you name it. Sarah didn't care about his theories, she cared about the paycheck. The job was simple: shadow Lang at a high-profile defense conference, keep him safe, and get out. But things went sideways fast. During a keynote speech, a man in the crowd pulled a knife and lunged at Lang. Sarah reacted like lightning, tackling the attacker and pinning him before anyone could blink. The crowd cheered, but the aftermath was chaos. A reporter snapped a photo of Sarah's tattoo as security dragged the attacker away. The image went viral, captioned, "Female SEAL saves billionaire." The internet exploded. Most called her a hero, but some, a vocal minority, called her a fraud. The accusations came fast. A group of retired SEALs, led by a bitter ex-officer named Tom Carver, claimed Sarah was disrespecting their brotherhood. Carver had a vendetta. He'd been Michael's commanding officer and blamed himself for his death. Seeing Sarah's tattoo felt like a personal insult, he filed a formal complaint with the Navy, accusing her of stolen valor. The media pounced, turning Sarah's story into a circus. Who was the fake SEAL? Screamed headlines. Online trolls dug into her past, twisting every detail. Sarah tried to explain as she'd never claimed to be a SEAL, only trained like O'Neill, but no one listened. By the time the feds arrested her for impersonating a military officer, she was public enemy number one. The trial was a spectacle. The prosecutor, a sharp-tongued woman named Ellen Pierce, painted Sarah as a con artist who'd faked her way into fame. Pierce held up the viral photo, pointing to the Trident tattoo like it was a smoking gun. "This woman lied to the world," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "She wore a symbol she didn't turn, endangering the honor of real heroes." Sarah's lawyer, a nervous public defender named Greg Walsh, tried to argue her case, but he was outmatched. The evidence seemed damning. Sarah had worked high-stakes jobs, carried herself like a soldier, and never corrected the SEAL label in public. The jury looked skeptical. Sarah sat stone-faced, her hands clenched under the table, whispering Michael's name to herself like a prayer. That's when General William Hawk Thompson entered the courtroom. At 62, he was a legend of Vietnam era SEAL turned four-star general who'd seen more combat than most men could dream of. His presence alone shifted the room's gravity. He strode to the witness stand, ignoring Pierce's objections, and asked to speak. The judge, a former Marine, nodded in deference. Hawk's voice was low but commanding. "That mark's real," he said, pointing at Sarah's tattoo. "Not because she's a SEAL as she's not, but because she earned it in ways you'll never understand." The courtroom froze. Pierce tried to interrupt, but Hawk silenced her with a glance. He told a story no one expected. In 2020, Hawk had been part of a classified mission in Yemen, a rescue op to free American hostages from a terrorist cell. Michael Caine was on that mission, the one that took his life. What no one knew, what the Navy buried, was that Sarah had been there too. Not as a SEAL, but as a civilian contractor hired for her sharpshooting skills. She'd been smuggled into the op under the radar, her identity hidden to avoid scrutiny. When the mission went south, Michael was pinned down by enemy fire. Sarah, against orders, ran through a hail of bullets to drag him to safety. She couldn't save him while he died in her arms, but she took out 3 enemy snipers, saving 6 other operatives. Hawk had been one of them. "She's no imposter," he said, his voice cracking. "She's a warrior." The courtroom was stunned. Pierce stammered, trying to regain control, but the damage was done. Hawk produced a sealed letter from the Navy's archives, declassifying Sarah's role in the mission. It wasn't a trident earned through blood training, but it was a mark of blood and sacrifice. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. When they returned, the foreman's voice was clear: "Not guilty." Sarah collapsed into her chair, tears streaming down her face. The crowd outside the courthouse was split as some cheered, others jeered, but Sarah didn't care. She walked out, head high, the trident tattoo gleaming under the sun. The aftermath wasn't tidy. Carver and his allies refused to back down, launching a smear campaign online. But Sarah had allies too. Veterans across the country rallied behind her, sharing their own stories of unsung heroes. Lang, the billionaire she'd saved, funded a documentary about her life, titled The Ghost of Montana. It premiered on YouTube in 2025, racking up millions of views. Sarah didn't watch it. She went back to her ranch, tending horses and rebuilding her life. She started a foundation in Michael's name, training women for private security roles, proving they could be warriors too. The trident stayed on her arm, a reminder of her brother, her fight, and the truth she'd carved out against all odds. As the sun sets over Sarah's story, we're left with a question: what does it mean to be a hero? Is it the title, a tattoo, or the courage to stand up when the world pushes you down? Sarah Caine didn't need a uniform to prove her worth, but she paid a price for it. Now it's her turn to weigh in. From which part of the country are you watching this video? Drop a comment below, and let's keep the story alive.